Hi, everybody. I'm Katy Byrne, psychotherapist from Sonoma, and I've written a book called The Courage to Speak Up, and the subtitle is Getting Your Hairballs Out. Yeah. So, how many people here know what a hairball is? Okay. How many people here have cats? All right. So what's the difference between people and cats?
Cats get hairballs.
Cats get hairballs and they get them out, right? And then they feel relieved. What do people do with hairballs?
Swallow them.
Swallow them?
Choke on them.
Choke on them?
Spit them at people.
Spit them at people? This is a good audience.
Try to ignore them.
Try to ignore them? Oh boy, yes.
Yeah. Hide them in their room.
Hide them in their room. How about bad backs? Migraines? How about eating? What else do we do with hairballs, humans? Drinking, smoking.
Self-medication of other varieties.
Self-medication of all kinds of varieties. Television, sleeping. This one could go on for quite a while, though we're limited in time. So the title of the book, The Courage to Speak Up, kind of started for me I was always studying conversation and the power, and it is my conviction that conversation can change the world. But as I studied this and wondered, why am I so really obsessed with the idea, one of the things that started for me in the beginning was I was a compulsive overeater, and so as I experimented with speaking up and saying what was on my mind and even talking to myself, I lost 100 pounds. I just kept lightening up and lightening up. So I know and that was after 5 years of diets and recovery work and therapy. But this was what ultimately worked for me. And I was so shocked at how these little things every day I was holding down. And I also had to do some self-talk, of course, at midnight in front of the refrigerator, because there's also the importance of speaking up, getting to know oneself. So, does anybody in here have a hairball this morning? Okay. All right. Anybody want to say a little bit about that, or just say the topic? I mean, it could be money, it could be the elections, it could be road rage, being in the car.
Just it's cold.
It's
cold.
cold.
I
Okay,
hate the
you're
cold.
freezing. So you got to shake, shake, shake. Anybody else?
I'm struggling with some issues with someone that I live with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Someone you live with. Have any of us ever had a problem with someone we live
Dude.
with? Okay, it's called relationships, right? So is there any, do we wonder why thank you for saying that. Is there any wonder that the world doesn't work very well? Because the soil from which everything stems, the roots of a grassroots movement, are relationships, right? If we don't have that connection, we don't have the ground from which to grow and sprout and work together. Basically, we're disconnected if we don't have connection, if we don't have communication. So there's a kind of a fire under me about this conversation subject, because I really think that it's so imperative. And it's like, we all know this. I mean, most of us are pretty conscious here. We know we have to communicate. But how many of us really freeze up? I mean, it's really scary, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
And what's the fear? What are some of the fears?
Of not being understood.
Not being understood? Big one.
To do more harm by speaking up than actually helping.
Because
I don't do it the right way.
Yes, to do more harm because we're afraid we don't know the right way. Excellent. Right on.
Fear of being ostracized.
Fear of being ostracized and shamed or shunned.
A sneaky one I discovered recently that's related to that is the fear of once you express something to someone and they don't get it, losing
Yes.
their friendship because you realize they're not
Yes.
who you want to be with.
Yes. So talking to somebody and have them not get it, and for me I call that rolling of the eyes. There she goes again. High maintenance, never satisfied, not being heard, and then losing a friendship. Has anybody ever lost a friendship here? And how shocking that can be after years. And then there's no conversation.
As a kid, I stuttered for 10 years.
Oh.
Imagine in school opening my mouth, nothing is coming out, and the kids teasing me. So speaking up
Yes.
has been a big challenge.
Yes, so being teased as a kid because you stuttered, and how many of us were shy, and there are so many messages, too big for your britches. Who do you think you are? These things start real early. And then, of course, as we grow up, there are things like why bother, pick your battles, So this will keep coming up as a theme today, and I appreciate your courage because it takes courage to move through these blocks. There's a lot to say about this, and a lot of it we know already. The men come from a long history of John Wayne, and the women come from Women's Lib. So, there's a lot written about men shutting down, and a lot about, not to be prejudicial either way, but in general, women speaking up. And I have a lot of things to say about that, but I think I'm going to just jump over some things and talk about the main thing that I think helps conversation and speaking up is it sounds simple, but if you see the soil in this environment and the beauty of these redwoods could not sustain themselves or thrive if they didn't have good soil. And the good soil is where we have to start from. Its basics, and that is valuing cooperation. Not something we don't know about, but very difficult to do. Why is it difficult? Judgments, gossip, anger. It's not as easy. It's easier said than done. So the whole idea, though, of speaking up, it's in our bodies, right? All the stuff that we hold in every day, that we feel we go to bed with sometimes at night, like not talking to the boss because you don't want to lose your job, not speaking to your husband because you might lose the relationship. Those kind of things stay with us. Even something small. One of the things I find so violent is shunning. This thing that happens in community where you just don't really know why, but there's tension. And nobody talks about it, but suddenly you walk into a gathering and that person kind of turns from you. And that's the shunning that can happen. There are all these subtle things that can cause us to separate, and then we aren't strong. We are disempowered as a people because we don't have we, the people. We're fragmented, we're like hairballs bouncing around everywhere instead of, really connecting and building bridges. And I know that's what community is trying to do. That's what we're all trying to do. But these fears and the shame and this frozen feeling stops us.